So what can your name tell about you?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Awaken Your Spirit. And we have Divine Numerology today with Darius Oliver. So stay tuned.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Awaken Your Spirit presents Divine Numerology. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia, and we are here with Darius Oliver. But before we get into bringing him on, we're going to do a little segment of inspirational moments.
All right. What do we have for our audience today?
So today I'm going to read a little bit of, it's called the Essential Law of Attraction Collection, and it's Teachings of Abraham. Here's the book. Beautiful colors on there. All right. So this is Abraham speaking, and Abraham is channeled messages by Esther Hicks. And Abraham says, whether you are focused upon the lack of money or the lack of time, you are still focused upon the lack of something you want, and therefore holding yourself in resistance to the things you really want. Whether your negative emotion is because of your feeling of shortage or of time, or whether it is because of your feeling of shortage of money, you are still feeling negative emotion and you are still in a state of resistance. And therefore, you're holding away what you really want. As you feel that you do not have enough time to do all the things you need to do or want to do, your attention to lack negatively impacts you much more than you realize. A feeling of being overwhelmed is your indicator that you are denying yourself access to ideas, rendezvous, conditions, and all manner of cooperation that could assist you if you were not disallowing them. It is an uncomfortable cycle when you feel a shortage of time. You focus upon your overload schedule and you feel overwhelmed. And in all of that, you offer a vibration that makes improvement impossible. So you have to begin telling yourself a different story, for you cannot continue to comment on how much you have to do without holding assistance away. There is a cooperative universe at your fingertips, ready and able to help you in more ways that you can begin to imagine. But you deny yourself that benefit as you continue to complain about too much to do. So as you feel that you do not have enough money, your attention to the lack of money disallows the avenues that could bring you more. You just cannot look at the opposite of what you want and get what you want. You have to begin telling a different story. You have to find a way to create a feeling of abundance before abundance can come.
Ooh. Everybody take note of that. And what do we focus on? And are we focusing on everything that's going wrong? Are we focusing on problems? Are we focusing on solutions and what we really want to bring or attract into our life? Money's one of them, but it could be anything in our life. It could be in a relationship. It could be great health. What does you want to focus on? What do you think about most of the time? And what you think about is what you tend to attract.
So long story short, it's think about what you want, but also get into that good feeling of it. Like if you already have it. And we talk about this all the time. And, it's good to hear it over and over so it gets ingrained into our minds.
Yeah. If you guys enjoyed the inspirational moment for today, give us some hearts, give us some likes. And if you guys find that there's anybody that would be find this show, this information fascinating, please invite them here to the show. You can share this on your timeline. If you're watching on YouTube, you can share, tag people in there. And if you guys want to join us, we are live here every Thursday on Divine Numerology at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. You guys can, if you're watching on Facebook, click the live notification button here in the feed. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click that little bell icon, and you'll get notifications each time when we go live and post a new video. All right. Today, we're talking about the secret code in your name and what your name in numbers will represent and what that means to you. So we're going to bring on our co-host and guest numerologist, Darius Oliver, who is going to be sharing with you guys his knowledge and how we calculate all this. and how we can use this in our life.
So let's welcome to the show, Darius Oliver.
Hello.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are
Doing
you?
awesome.
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. So we're talking about the secret code in your name.
So yes, a lot of people want to know about what their name says. A lot of people are really surprised to find out that that actually has a meaning to it. I really like. Before I go into that, I wanted to comment a little bit on what you read in that book by Abraham,
Uh-huh.
and how she was talking about, being that magnet for wealth, magnet for the things that you're wanting.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something that was actually a reminder for me about something that I need to do today. And that is, and I've been doing it, but it was a reminder to do my daily practice of gratitude.
Yeah.
Like a daily practice, something that can put me into that energy, that frequency. One of the things that I do is, I was listening to Bob Proctor one time, and he was like, "Hey, write down 10 things that you're grateful for every day."
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and I started doing that in the beginning of. I started doing that last month on the 21st, actually.
Mm-hmm.
On the first, summer began. That was the day of summer. So that's when I started doing it. And just noticed the shift in my own personal energy. And not just that, not just like, oh, this is what I feel, but I started getting better results in business as a result of that too. And just better results in actually the things that I was wanting and my mental state, as far as the conditions and the relationships that I have. And when one of the things, so that, I can go deep into it, but the bottom line is that it gets us in that energy that is spoken of in that particular book. So thank you for that reminder.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's like when you're starting a new habit, it's the keeping it going is the prime part of it.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it every day. I'm like, you know what? Cool. I need to do it.
That's awesome.
All right.
But, go ahead.
Oh no. So I was gonna say, so we're getting into our next episode here of Divine Numerology. And if you guys have been following with us for the last few episodes, we were talking about a lot of different things that we can do. And as far as we've been talking about time cycles for the last few episodes, and how we can learn what our life path is and how to calculate that number, how to calculate your personal year, your personal month. And last time we calculated our personal day and how we can use that in our life. But now we're switching gears a little bit. So we're talking about, our name and what our name can tell about us. And there's a code in there, and we can calculate that into numbers.
Yep. And so when we do that, when we calculate the name into numbers, we're able to find out what's called the expression number. I made a brief video of this that people can check out. It's on YouTube. And it just explains a brief summary of what we're talking about now. But the expression number is that which you are. That is what the expression number is. So when we calculate somebody's name, it's going to tell us like, hey, look, this is who the person is. Now, when we were talking about the life path, that's going to tell us what the person is here to learn.
Okay.
What their life script is. What their lessons, influences, subjects, and themes that will continuously reoccur in their lifetime. So it will tell me, so the life path, just to differentiate the two, life path's going to tell me, hey, oh, I'm a life path 3. That means I'm here to learn how to be expressive. I'm here to be sensitive. I'm here to be funny. I'm here to experience joy. I'm here to overcome depression. I'm here to do all these things like that.
Okay.
Now, someone is let's say, an expression of a 7, then what's 7? The number 7, they're going to imbue those traits. That's what they're going to be actually being. So if their expression there, that means that their name adds up to that 7. They're going to be the type that is very introspective and analytical. They are very contemplative. They carry themselves in like a poised type of a manner. They're reclusive. They can isolate and want to be by themselves a lot. So they're going to do that. That's what they're going to do by nature. And so this is where we get insight, is what if the two numbers, the expression of a person, their name, what if that goes against their life path number? You know, what kind of challenges does that present? Not that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is this where you see where some people will, if they understand that, they'll actually change their name?
I was thinking about that too.
That can happen. That is a reason why some people may change their name. And when people like to change their name, a lot of times it's intuitive. It's not like, rarely is it someone says, "Oh, you know what? I did my numerology and I want to change my name now."
My name
Sometimes
sucks.
that happens.
I'm gonna calculate my name how I want my life to be like.
Actually, we did that. We did that when we got married, and you know, I was thinking, well, should I change my name or not? And I calculated the last name that I have, and then I calculated using his, just his alone, and it was the same thing. So I just kept it the same.
Right. You found a whole bunch of interesting things. And I think that anytime somebody studies their name or adds it up and tries to calculate, they're gonna find something that they're like, you know what, I could switch that R to I could put an extra R right there, you know.
I'll put 3 A's instead of 2.
Yeah, I could take that I and make it a Y and just keep the sound the same, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be something you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be like, oh, this vibration, it has this good quality and that good quality, but oh man, it has this and that, and I'm experiencing that. I don't like that, man. You know that. So that happens. I've looked at my name before, and I looked at what it added up to long time ago, and I was like, you know what? I bet if I added another R right there, I'll make it a Darius. No, the idea is that the pronunciation stays the same. It's just that the letter equivalent is different.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times though, when people don't change their name for that reason, they'll usually just change it because maybe they don't like their name. Some of the reasons are like, there's people that whenever someone has said their name, they were a kid and they were in trouble when their name was said. So they don't like that name because it associates their name with trouble. Yeah,
not negative.
So they'll want to change it to something that is more empowering to them.
Okay. And so we're talking about calculating our names. And so what do we do with that? So we're always trying to break everything down to numbers. And so we talked about previously that every letter has a number associated with that. And so are we taking every letter of our name and identifying what that number is and just do the math and add up every single letter to calculate? And then we're doing that. Is it our full name? Is our first, last, first, middle, last? How do we do that?
So we're going to take the full name. So we're going to take the full name as it appears on like just the birth certificate. Okay. There's a reason for that. And that is because that name was the name that we incarnated in. It's going to contain all the lessons that we've learned throughout this lifetime. Or that we're supposed to learn in this lifetime. It's going to show the karmic lessons. It's going to show us the things for us to focus on, the areas that we lack in, and then also the areas where we have too much of that energy going on.
Okay.
So it will show us lack and also imbalance. And then also strengths. It'll show us what our soul wants, what motivates us and moves us when we go into the deeper calculations. And then it'll also show us what people's first impression is of us. And it'll show us also how we appear. There's different facets of the name. And all these things can be found when decoding it. We can find out what our soul wants, what drives us before we're incarnated in this physical body. Then we can find out what it is that moves and drives us after we're incarnated into this physical body in this lifetime. Also, the nature of our being before our incarnation here, and then the nature of our being after we've incarnated here. Like not when I say after, I'm not talking about the next life. I'm talking about in this physical incarnation.
Okay. And so why would somebody want to calculate the name? So you mentioned there's a lot of traits that we have. What are some ways that we could use this by knowing what our name number represents?
There's so many implications to this. Yeah, you see that look like when I'm like this, I'm about to say so. But so many implications to this in that practically you can see what energetic pattern you're going to have. You can see if you're going to really enjoy being in that apartment building. You're going to be able to see if you're going to get along with that person in business. You're going to be able to see if this person is a match to your soul. You're going to be able to see if your marriage mate is helping you, what part of your life that they're here to fill. What part of your lesson they're helping you to, not just you, but you're going to also find out what is theirs.
Okay.
It will tell you not just that, but when you start getting into the deeper stuff, it will tell you the outcome of a personal year of any time cycle. The name will tell you, I don't care what time cycle that is, whether it's a year, a month, or a day, the name will tell you the outcome of what that will be when you do a certain calculation.
Interesting. And so let's do this now. For those who are watching, we're gonna just show how we can calculate that. What's the code? What's the cheat sheet to let us know, like, how do we calculate our number? So what I'm gonna do here for everybody is I'm gonna share my screen here for just a moment, and let's do this. Let's take this off. So let's go here. So obviously we want to first identify what each letter represents. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so and now you said in numerology that we go at least 1 through 9.
Yep. Just like that.
And so,
and just to throw this in, this is one particular system that is mostly well known in the West. So that's why we're using it for today's lesson.
And what would be the difference between the one in the East?
The one in the East, they call it Chaldean numerology because it uses that system of the letters. They don't include the number 9. They consider the number 9 to be holy and sacred and separate from the rest. And so they also have a slightly different number assignment for the different letters, and so it varies and it's different. Also in Chaldean numerology, they correspond the numbers to the planets. Okay. So it's more in line with the planets, and then also by extension, since it has that relationship with the planets, each number carries the properties of those planets. So by learning about the planets, you learn about the numbers as well. And not just that, if you want to take, and I'm not going to go deep, but if you want to know about, if you go into Vedic astrology, and then you look at your name, you can also see how your name is activating certain planets in your chart and certain houses in your chart.
Okay. And that goes really deep for those who want to go into that. So we'll keep it basic. And that's what our whole goal is with this show and everything that we're sharing with you is, let's start simple because it can get so complicated, especially when it comes to numbers and how to figure out all this stuff. And that's why if you get confused with anything, is we have one of the experts here that you can talk to and share, and you can actually do private sessions with him as well, and he can go over all this stuff and calculate it for you if you're very curious about that. And he's done that for us, and we have pages and pages of charts of how to calculate.
And that's very detailed. So this is just one little aspect of it.
All right, so here's how we're going to do letters to numbers and what the table is. And so I've got everything broken down to color coordinated to make it simple to see. And so a 1 is going to represent these 3 letters. So the A, yes, J, and the S. And the way you figured out is in numerology, as Darius has shared with us, we always want to break things down to a single digit. So pretty much what we did is if you count 1 through 27 through the alphabet all the way to Z, any letter that has a 2-digit number, you add those 2 numbers together to get to a single digit. And we break it down here. So this is pretty much the cheat sheet that we have for you guys and what the letters are. So 1 would be if you have an A or a J or an S in your name, that would represent, those letters represent 1. The 2 represents the B, K, and T letters. And then we have 3.
And that's the C, the L, and the U. And the 4 is D, M, V.
The DMV.
Yeah. That all equals 4. That's why you're always in line. Long wait times. Structure and stability. Patience.
So 5 is you have the E, N, and W. And we're just going to go down the line here. 6 is we got Fox, which is F-O-X. 7 is these letters, and then 8, and we have 9. And so I'll leave this up here for just a little bit so you guys can see how you can calculate that. So if those are you're watching right now, whether you're watching live or the replay, is write out your full name. So your first name, your middle name if you have one, and your last name, and then replace each letter with a number. And you can find it here in this table. You can always pause and replay and go back, if you're watching the replay. And then what you're going to do is take all those numbers and we're going to add them up. Is that correct, Darius?
Yep. Just like that.
The first and last name.
The first and middle, if you have it.
If you have one.
Correct?
Yep, all of it. I got 2 middle names, so I got plenty of fun there.
And Veronica has no middle name.
I don't have any.
So there you go, Scott. You got whatever. If you have 2 middle names, 15 middle names, or no middle names, all of it should just be added just like that. Yes.
Okay, got it.
So I was doing mine earlier when you guys were talking, and I think I got it right.
You think you got it right. And again, it's all math. You got to make sure you get the equation right. So whatever we share, if you guys have a question, you find out what your number is. If you want to know what that represents, type that here into the comments and we'll share that. And we're always going to assume, and we got this from last time from Darius, was we're going to assume you did the calculation right. Yep. So make sure you always double check your work. It's like going back to school. Mm-hmm. All right. So here's the chart. Here's what every letter represents, what number it falls in by category. And I'll come back to this throughout the show, but let's show you an example of how we calculate that. So let's say we want to calculate your name. So we're just going to do a first name as an example so we don't get too long and in depth. So let's take something very simple and we'll do the name John.
There you go.
Very simple. John's an easy one. We didn't make like a 20-letter long name. So based on that last chart, the J represents a 1, the O represents a 6, H represents 8, and N represents 5. And we just add all those together, which is going to come out to, if I did my math right, comes out to 20. And since we have a 2-digit number, we want to add those two together. So 2 plus 0 equals
20.
2. So the first name John would equal to the number 2 if you did all the calculations correctly. And do the same thing with your middle name and your last name and take those 3 numbers and add them up until you get 1-digit number. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that is correct.
All right. So
that name right there. So that means that any person that is named John, any person that you walk around, you meet that name is John, that first name is 2. So right off the bat, if you know that John equals 2, you can already have an idea of what your interaction may or may not be like.
And that's if you know what the 2 represents, correct?
Right.
So now my question then, if your full name goes to 1 number, does also, like, say, like a first name, we're using John as the example, does the first name has its own specific meaning plus the middle and the last name?
Yes. Great question. So the first name will show the vibration that you give off on a daily basis when you're interacting with people. It's your common name. It's what people think of you as. It's the vibration that people experience from you through thought, or that's just what you carry as you go around.
Okay.
So for John, it's number 2. So that's why you'll notice many people named John are very nice, very sweet people, because the people named John are like, yep, that's right. But
just don't make them mad.
Yeah. Because see, here's the thing, John's they're very nice people, but 2 is all about duality. So just like you said, don't make them mad, because 2 is the sweetest, the nicest of all the numbers, but man, the opposite of 2 can be harsh. It can be, very completely the opposite, very cold.
Reminds me of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of scenario.
Right. And the reason why is because every number has duality. And so whereas the 2 loves to be supportive and cooperative of other people, it loves to be helpful, wants to do things just because it wants, it loves the one-on-one relationship, one-on-one, and, it doesn't have to be around a whole bunch of people. In fact, a lot of people with the name John, since 2 is by nature the supporter, or the one that's in the background, they may prefer not to be in the limelight or in the spotlight.
Okay.
But mostly they, behind the spotlight. And then another thing about John is that they tend to be nurturers, because there's and I'll get to this later, but the vowel in that name is 6. So they're going to want to be nurturing people. They're very domestic. They care about the home and the family a lot. And they're very duty and responsibility oriented, generally speaking.
Okay. Got it. So before we continue, so I'm going to let people digest some of this for a little bit. I want to say hello to those that are watching with us. We have Tiffany Cook is joining with us. She says she's here, but she's on the road. Cesar Hernandez is joining us. Hi, my friends. Thank you. Welcome everybody here to the show Divine Numerology. Tiffany's asking, can someone do me? Now she's on the road, so I don't want you calculating your name while you're driving, unless you're in the passenger seat.
So we would need your full name, like your birth name.
So
yes,
Tiffany plus whatever your middle name is and your last name Cook. Now, here's my question: do you use your maiden name, correct?
Yes, you use your maiden name.
Okay, so now
when we're doing this calculation.
Got it. Okay, because it's your birth certificate name. Okay, so you would do that. And what I'm going to do is, for those, I'm going to bring this back up into the screen here. Let me share my screen for just a moment. I'm going to take this off again, and let's go screen share here. So let's do this. So going to letters to numbers. Here's how you calculate each letter of your name, and then turn that into a number. And then put all those numbers in a row and just add them all up. And then just get to the point where you get everything to one single digit to the end, and that would be your name. What would we call it? Like your name code, or how would you describe it?
It's like a code.
Okay.
It's like a blueprint.
So if I did Tiffany's name correct, I only did her first name because
name.
I don't know if she has a middle name. But it equals to 9. So I got 36 and then broke it down to 9.
So that would be just the word Tiffany itself, the name
So
Tiffany.
I think she put it here.
And she says her name is Tiffany Jill Smiley.
Wow, that's a cool name.
Bit.
That's a cool name. So
Is
yes.
that your real name, your real birth name, or
is Smiley your maiden name? So that's the question we'll have here. I'll let her take time to type that in here. But we'll do I'll let Veronica do the numbers on that as we talk. And so as we're figuring this out, so here's an example. You've been doing calculations this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
What did mine come out to?
Your first name came out to a 4.
Okay, so I'll use myself as the guinea pig here while we're calculating. Tiffany says yes, by the way. So that is her maiden name.
Oh, okay.
So mine comes out to a 4. So what would the name Aaron, if someone has Aaron, what would that, from your perspective, represent from a first name? And make it good, please.
So from you're asking me, or?
Yeah, I'm asking you. So what would the 4 represent? A 4 name?
Just in his name.
So a 4 would represent everything having to do with structure. Everything having to do with structure, stability, organization. 4 is the square. 4 is
you call me a square?
Hey man, look, let me ask you this.
I know I am in a box right now, but hey.
Look, hey, look, which one stands on the table of life longer, a square or a circle? So my first, right, exactly. The first letter of my name equals 4. So that's something. The 4 is good. Like all the numbers are good, and all the numbers have their growing sides to them. 4 can be, but it can also be very rigid. It can be resistant to change. It can be stubborn.
Definite.
That's true.
It can be stubborn, but that same stubbornness can be steadfast, because if you decided that you're gonna do a certain diet, nothing in the world could sway you. If you say, "Hey, no, I'm doing this diet. I'm going all vegan," and you made that commitment, nothing can stop you. And it's steadfast is the light side, right? But stubbornness is when there's a wrong direction that a person is going in, and they're presented with evidence or a good reason to change course, but they pursue in their own way, because of the 4 loves the feeling of comfort and the feeling of stability and the feeling of things being the same. And when things change, that is not comfortable. That is not comfortable for the 4 energy. You'll notice that right in the middle, the 4 and the 5, they're right next to each other. So the 4 wants things to stay the same forever. If it was up to the number 4, there wouldn't be any 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It would just be, hey.
No, we just 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just stop right there.
Yeah, that's if it was up to the 4. 5 is like, hey, let's change things up a little bit. Let's throw in a little bit of some mayhem. Let's crack that cement, and shift it up a little bit. Let's have some fun. Let's go out and So you'll notice that it's not just that with 4 and 5, but it's like that with all the numbers. They're right next to their opposites.
Okay.
But that just is so Aaron, since that name would carry that 4 meaning. People with Aaron tend to be very logical thinkers. Very logical, very linear in the thought process, which is why especially if they have the number 4 supported in their name, Aaron is a person that you may want to have involved in planning. And if you got a project that you want to work on, and you're figuring out, hey, who can I put on there? Like back when I used to go door to door, I had to lead teams. And so if I had a person with a certain name, I'll say, okay, who am I going to appoint to make sure that they're covering their blocks correctly and that they're checking in at the right time? Okay, you know what? This guy, his first name equals 4. I'm going to put him there. And I actually have worked with Aarons before in business, in that type of business, and they're really good to put on like the planning aspect of it when the 4s are supported in their names.
So is that pretty congruent from an outside perspective?
Yes, it is. But I also did your full name, and that's how you.
Yes, that's how I spell it.
So I got a 1 for his full name.
I'm number 1. Is that what you're saying?
But you know what? I'm a 1 also.
Fantastic. That's 11.
Right.
Which is 2.
Yes. 2 is the number of relationship.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And guess what? You guys are in a relationship. So as it relates to your full name being the 1 is also original. 1, it wants to be independent. So then it's like, okay, well, and I've gotten this before, and it's when people say it, it's nice. They'll say, hey, well, those are just general things like that. How you can say that about anybody. A lot of people want to be independent, and a lot of people are orderly and structured. Mm-hmm. Just general kind of statements. But the caveat here is, while that may be true in the sense of these being general descriptions, when you have enough of them lined up right after the other, then you see exactly where they fall within that person's makeup. So whereas in social, when you're on one-on-one basis, people just know you as Aaron, that is what the energy that they're going to be feeling from you. That's what you're emitting when you're in that context.
Okay.
On a greater scale, what you emit throughout life is that 1 trait, as far as you rising and doing things of your own initiative, taking action as you progress throughout life. 1 is the entrepreneur. 1 does not want to work under anyone. 1 will have issues with authority. 1 will have issues with authority and father figures at times, until it recognizes its own authority and it's able to own that and step into its own power. And that's what 1 is here to do. And it's not just that, but it's here to be original and creative. It's the original. There was a quote last night, not to make you God, but it said, the world worships the original. Because, people they always say, well, hey, which one came first? The thing that came first, the oldest, that's the source. Mm. So the idea with 1 is that to be careful of, and I say this as a life path 1, because I'm a life path 1, is we're here to really watch out about our own egos. And, so I'm here to learn those lessons related to independence and entrepreneurialism and all these things like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to learn those qualities and traits related to confidence and all this stuff. As a lesson, as a theme throughout our life, the 1 represents the self. So there's a different type of self. There's the self as in me as an individual, which is I'm focused on how I'm separate from everyone else. I'm separate from this person because I have this interest. I'm so caught up in my own, me. And it can be selfish or it can be selfless. And completely surrendering, its self-interest. It can for the whole, because it views the whole as the self. Because in truth, all is one. And that's the ultimate lesson of a person that carries the energy of one, is to become united with all that is.
That's fascinating. That's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
That's what fascinates me so much about numerology is when you get into, it's like when the first time we met and you started doing this for us, and like it was just really interesting. Like, wow, it was almost 100% correct as far as the traits and things we need to learn, and that's how we can use this in our life, in our daily life. Is what are we all here to learn? What are we all here to do? And what are things that we need to work on? What are things that we need to to stop doing at the same time? And it's going to be based on our personality and our numbers. So that was ours. I want to say hello to Martin Lopez. He's joining with us. He also says learning qualities is an awesome concept. And as you're gonna work on,
I broke down Tiffany's name.
So let's look at this real quick. So again, we broke down the name Tiffany Jill Smiley.
Yeah.
And the way that we did that is, again, I'm going to take this off and go back to our little chart here. So we use this chart to figure out your name. So again, if those of you who are just joining with us, we're talking about the secret code in your name and how we can actually take letters and turn them into a number and do a calculation of what your name, your full birth given name, represents. And so here's the chart right here, and you just find out all the letters that are in your name, turn that into this number. So here's out of 1 through 9, these are the letters that represent those numbers, and then add all those numbers up until you get a 1-digit number. So if your full name ends up in a 2-digit number, take those two numbers, add them together until you get 1, and that will be your name number. So what is Tiffany's name number?
Her full name, I got a 9.
Okay, so she would be considered a 9 in her name.
Yep. 9 as a simple 2-word answer for those that are taking notes: wisdom and integrity. Just if you want to jot that down. So now when you go a little bit deeper just in what the 9 means, 9 is also related to philanthropy. It's related to recognition. Now, what we find is when we're studying a lot of celebrities' charts, people who are very famous, they have a lot of 9 in their chart. Because 9 is the number of the public. So if they have a lot of 9 concentrated in that chart, then that means that there's going to be a lot of dealing with the public, a lot of public spotlight, fame, when we find it heavily present in a chart, especially when we see the master numbers of 9. But as a name number, generally speaking, yes, Martin, you used the full name.
Full birth name.
First, middle, and last.
Yes. 9, it represents those things. It also represents power, personal power. Now, 9 can be the benevolent ruler, or it can be the dictator. It can be your, depending on how you feel about, the person. It can be the Abraham Lincolns, or it can be the Hitlers. It can, the Stalins. It can be these people. Mother Teresa had a 9. She was a philanthropist. Elvis Presley had a 9 as a life path, right? Or just in general, the 9s that appear in their chart. Michael Jackson had tons of 9s, but he wasn't a 9 life path. But all these people have 9 and very prevalent in their chart. It's one of those things. In fact, 9, if you want to look at it from this perspective, in the tarot, corresponds to the Hermit. And the Hermit, if you ever look at that card, it's the old man that carries the light for the people. Why does he care for the people? Why not himself? Because the eyes are closed and he's looking down, and he's reminding people to go within, because that's where their light will shine. It's 9 because 9 is the final number. It also represents the endings and closings of things. So for Tiffany to have a full name that adds up to 9 means that she'd be dealing widely with the public, a lot. And she would not just that, but since it's a universal number containing all the elements in it, she'd be able to be a reflection of everyone that she comes across. Whenever people tend to get along with her, 9 represents popularity, because 9 is really a mirror of every number it comes in encounter with. If you add 5 to 9, guess what? It's gonna add up to 14. 1 and 4 is 5 again. It's gonna reflect a higher version of you. So people often enjoy being around the 9 because the 9 tends to be reflective of them, and can also show them what the higher or next version of them will be. But also on the other side, 9s, sometimes you don't want to be around the 9, because if it's a negative 9, just like it can add to you and make you a higher level of what you are, it can also, if you, whatever number you subtract from 9, it becomes a lesser version of that. And so it will either take you up or take you down, depending on that energy of itself, how that person is showing up as a 9. You know, that is that's the relationship that it has.
Say that one last time. You glitched for just a second.
So depending on depending on the quality of that 9, if they're showing more the lighter aspect of it, then they will help you elevate. If they're showing the negative aspect, it will really be emphasized how low that they'll take you to a lower version of yourself. Got it. So, and that's not just with an individual, that's also with things. Like if you add up a company, you want to know, oh man, is that company good for me to work for? And it adds up to 9. Okay, well, if that company is good, then it'll take me to a higher version of myself.
So so you're creating a business and you're trying to figure out a name for your company or your business. You can do the same thing for that too, right? And say,
absolutely, okay, absolutely.
Now we got to figure out what ours represents.
Right.
Martin says, I got a lot of letters.
Yeah, he probably, I wonder how many names he has, middle names.
Middle names, last names.
Most Hispanic people have like several middle names, but I don't know how I didn't even get a middle name.
Now, if you are a junior and it's spelled out as JR, you would just how exactly as it appears on the birth certificate. If it says JR, then you would use JR. If you are the 3rd, the 4th, the 2nd.
That's my next question. Okay.
Then you would actually just put the corresponding letter. If you're the 2nd, then you just put B. If you're the 4th, you would put D.
So go back, when you say the corresponding letter to like the 3rd or the 4th, what does that mean?
So if my name was Darius Dwayne Anthony Oliver, the 2nd,
okay,
then in place of the 2, I would just put the 2nd letter of the alphabet, which is B.
Okay, so whatever the 2 represents. Got it.
Right. And if you're yes, and then that's how you would do with names.
Got it. So for those of you who are still trying to calculate, I put this up here again so you can see. You can take a screenshot of this, or if you're watching on the replay, you can pause it, calculate your name, and then figure out what your number is.
So I was calculating. Remember before when we were talking about for me changing my last name, I redid the calculations and it's completely different. It's not the same.
Okay.
So if I right now, the name that I have, it totals 10, which is 1. Okay. So it equals the same as what we have
right now.
But if I changed it to Garcia, I would actually be a 9. So a 1 or a 9.
Which one do you want to be?
I think I'll stay the 1.
Oh, come on. What do you guys think?
What do you want to be?
What story are you gonna take?
Hey, I think that's an off-screen question, man. That's an off-screen question.
Well, if you add the 1 and the 9, it's a 10, which actually equals a 1. We'll do
oneness.
What if we did Mendez Garcia? Add the whole letters up.
If I did Mendez Garcia, it would be a 4.
Right.
So you can choose. You want to be a 1, a 4, or a 9. So she's got 3 options.
Hey, you got 9 members to choose from.
So then that brings me to my next question with that.
Go
So
ahead.
again, so for married couples, and they end up changing their name. So Tiffany went from Smiley to Cook. Veronica went from Mendez to Garcia. Does that now change everything, or is it still going back to the maiden name?
So when we're calculating, if I do a deep reading with somebody, I'm going to use that original name to tell me how, what are the lessons they came here to learn. What is it, whatever their lessons are.
Mm-hmm.
Any change that a person has to the name is like an addendum to a contract.
Mm. So it's like you're changing the contract or adding a little extra to it, in a sense?
Exactly. Huh. Now, a lot of times what happens when we have names or, a person, say we have a missing energy in our name. Sometimes what happens is that person's name fills that, which is very common. And then what you'll notice is that person starts to respond a little bit differently than they normally would to situations. Which is why if you talk to married couples who change their names, they have tended to change afterward. In fact, I've done readings with couples and I would ask them, because here's this. I make a chart. When I do a reading for a couple, I'll add up what their original name is. Then I'll add up what their married name is. I'll do a compatibility chart based on how they were with the maiden name. Then I'll do a compatibility chart with their current married name between them and their mate. And I'll be able to find out which one has stronger connection on paper based on the calculation. Then I would experiment with it and be like, hey, so did you like things before the marriage or after the marriage? And depending on the level of connection, some might say, oh man, after the marriage, things became great and all this stuff like that. That's why we're just here to talk about a business. Or, oh man, before the marriage, there was so much love and romance. And then that's why we're here to talk about a reading or, a reading about a relationship, because we want to know what can we do to, in numerology, what are we here to learn from each other?
Yeah. Okay.
So and I'll ask questions. I'll be like, hey, so what did you notice changed? And when you, because right here it'll tell me, but hearing it from their own words and then saying, look, this number right here, or even before they tell me, it'll just be so obvious, like, oh, okay, boom, 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 connection.
Okay.
They're in these, whenever this situation arises, this is a pattern that happens. Is that right? And they're like, yeah, that's right. So it depends. But that is how the name can change. And one more thing too, say if, for instance, you're Ben and Jerry and you want to create ice cream and you're like, hey, well, we want the name Ben and Jerry. We want to use the ampersand. The ampersand, just for those that are taking notes, that's the 27th letter. So the ampersand equals 9.
So it's 27. Write that down.
That was actually and I got that from my numerology mentor, the author of King's Book of Numerology. Okay. He actually shared that tidbit of information with me that originally was a 27th letter, but it was removed as an actual letter.
Interesting. So those of you who are still doing your calculations, so what we've been talking about today is the secret code of your name. No, Veronica has no middle name.
No middle name for you. It's like the middle name.
But we'll do the calculation after, if you were to use Veronica Mendez Garcia, because that fills in a middle name. Now it's 3 names rather than just 2. Be curious to see what we do that. We'll get back to you guys on the next episode. But we're talking about what names can represent, and it's like you've always told us, Darius, why we do these numbers, how we do our calculations for whether it's our life path, our name, our day cycles, whatever that might be. It's a guide.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah. And it's there to help guide us onto areas that we can improve on. If there's things that are going on in our life, you don't understand why these things are happening or how it's showing up this way. Well, a lot of times it's all on the numbers. If you look at the numbers, a lot of it makes sense. Oh, this is why, because I did this on the wrong day, or my name tells me everything about what's happening. And if you change it, things change. And so you can use it as just a guide and not so much try to manipulate it, right? Like I'm gonna fumble with the numbers.
Yes. So when you're doing this, so for those of you out there that are like, man, you know what? I need to change my name. Before you go and do that, you learn more about it, because there's a whole bunch of other things that need to be taken into consideration. As far as what that new vibration of that next name will give to you, what lessons will that give to you, what challenges will that give to you?
I'm gonna make sure I know the challenges first before changing my name.
But it also brings a point too that no number is good or bad.
Yeah,
it just is.
Right. And I'm saying this
part to work on. Go ahead.
And I'm saying this in this context, not per se in the case of, well, yeah, I mean, sure, in marriage, but I'm talking about for those that are watching right now that say, oh, my name is John, and I want to add another N to my name so that it'll be, it'll add up to 7 instead of 20. And they're like, yeah, I want to do that so that I'll be more mentally sharp and aware with the 7 energy. Before you go and add that, make sure you understand how that will affect you throughout the grand scheme of things. And then, it's a study. But it is a tool. It is a tool, and it can be used in that way. And I believe God helps those that help themselves. It's a tool that we can use to help ourselves to get more of what we want in life, but also to help us to achieve and fulfill our purpose, especially if we can make that name more in alignment with our life path.
Got it.
So what have you changed your last name to Mendes?
Whoa.
I haven't done the numbers on that one yet.
That's an off-screen question.
and
And time's up. No.
Time's up. Actually, it is time's up. It's 11:01 right now on our clock. But what we're talking about, Ninja, the conversation right now, we're talking about finding the secret code of your name. And for those of you who are still trying to figure out and want to know your calculation, if you're watching, go back on the replay. You can see the chart that we put up. Calculate your whole entire name. And again, the way we do that is just you find your name and take every letter and convert that to a number and add all your numbers up from your first, your middle if you have one, and your last. All the letters and names that are on your birth certificate, that's what you're going to add up. And you add them all up until you get one single number. So again, if you get to the end and your name ends in a double-digit number, add those two together until you get a one single digit. And that'll be your name, your number. And then that's going to represent something. If you want to know what that means, calculate it up, type that here into the comments, and join us on our next episode next week. And we'll take some time to go over that before we get into our next week's topic. And we'll figure out what your name number represents.
So you would be a 2 if you changed it to Mendes.
Oh, you've already done the calculation for me.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
See, Numerologist said, don't change it. Don't change it. You don't know what that's going to do to your life.
Give him some strength. Hey, destiny is what it is. Destiny is what it is. We do have free will to influence it.
Got it. So you can have fun with the numbers. So play around with it. Let us know how it's helping you guys in your life, and let's have fun. If you guys want to know more how to read this, again, you guys can reach out to Darius. Just private message him if you want to do your own in-depth private reading. Go to just Darius Oliver on Facebook. You can find him also here tagged into our feed here on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, we'll put his information here in the comment links as well. And do your own private reading because, again, we're doing basic stuff right now for you guys. And he will go so far in depth with you. and just tell you everything. And it's great to know more about yourself, because it allows you to know where you can work on your life and move you in that right direction. It's good to have a path or blueprint.
Yeah, and if you have like, if you want to know what your full name represents, put it in the comments, and then Darius could get back to you, or we can get back to you on that.
Absolutely. So Darius, thank you so much for joining with us again as our co-host. We really appreciate it and have a lot of fun with you being here and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge here with us and also our audience.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Absolutely. And we are here live on the Divine Numerology episodes every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You guys want to be reminded each time when we go live. If you're watching on Facebook, click on that live notification button here in the feed. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on that live bell notification so you get reminded each time when we have a video posted.
All right. So we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.